Yep. We're going to call the meeting of the Public Works, Utilities, and Environment Committee meeting to order. It is 1:02. You got it. Okay. Do the roll call. Trustee Manning here. Trustee Gasparo here. Trustee Beagley here. So we have quorum. Also in attendance is Village Administrator Travis Wells and Public Works Supervisor Scott Rolowinski. At this point, I'd like to open the meeting to public comment. There is no one present at the Village Hall. Is there anyone online? I don't believe so. You don't see anyone, do you, Travis?
Nope.
No. Okay, so there will be no public comment. The next order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the March 6th, 2025 meeting, which are attached.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. So we'll move right into Scott's Department of Public Works report. And I see like 3 items that you have. You may have additional ones.
No, just the 3. So I just thought it would be important to let you all know. The salt contract came in. It was due to be sent back in on March 28th, which was Friday. So I had to submit for the request for the amount of salt for 2025-26 season. So if all you know how to read into your magic ball to know what type of a season we're going to have snow wise. But so just to let you know though, that the current status of where we are, we only used 32 tons of salt, somewhere around that nature that we used for this past season. Again, it was a relatively mild season. There wasn't a whole lot of events. I did anticipate 3 consecutive years of very mild.
How'd you get that wrong?
Yeah, I know, right? It's Wisconsin.
Not over with.
That's true. That is true. So currently, like right now, we have probably about enough room for 30 ton. We only ordered 60 for that's all we're obligated for the contract.
That was the previous contract for
24 to 25. Yeah. So that's what we're obligated to take by April 30th. We have enough room to, if we really shove it in there, with a little bit of creativity, we might be able to get 40 in, but we're not going to get 60. So, I sent in the contract amount, and I told them that they offered again for the WSDOT to buy back any unused salt again. However, they don't know if their budget's going to allow them to do it. So they will contact us and let us know if that is a possibility. So there is a hypothetical here of either we're going to order if they won't buy back our salt, we're going to take nothing for the next contract. If they decide that they can purchase back all the unused salt throughout the state that everybody has, then we will purchase 20 tons. Because I'm going to try to take 40 of our obligated 60, try to stuff it in the barn. Then will it be completely full, and then just err on the side of caution to not get stuck without salt, because that's a bad thing. That I just took 20. So we've been averaging over the last 3 years somewhere between, and they've been really mild years, but 20 to 35 ton for a season. So
what is the actual inventory? 100 and something
right now?
Yeah.
Currently, before we take it on, I don't know. I really don't. They say that salt barn holds 160 tons. I don't believe it at all. I really don't. It's really small. I could see the back wall that we were dumping the salt out of the truck today, because of the anticipation of snow yesterday, last night. So I can see the back wall, and there's not much in there, and we can only put about 40 in. So if I can see the back wall and I'm standing there to only be able to put 40 in, I'm thinking there's maybe 60 in there right now. So it said, I saw a record saying it holds 160. I don't think it does. There's no way that there's 100 ton in there and there's, or 120, and there's no way. I'll be lucky if I can fit 40 in there. So that's probably using a conveyor, dumping in from the top and filling every little nook and cranny, which we can't do.
If
So
you do the geometry and figure out what the volume is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And using a conveyor over the top. So with a loader, there's no that way that we could push it up high enough.
So we have, you think of E60 currently in there, or what did you say?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say
Based on our
60.
experience, we've got it.
And we haven't touched that salt in 3 years. So it's old and it's condensated. So it's making hard chunks and stuff like that. So currently right now we're on the hook for, we did a 20-year or a 20-ton order for the 25-26 season.
How much is salt a ton?
Last year it was $80. No. I think it was $80 and some odd cents a ton.
It's just
Somewhere in that ballpark. It was 75 to 80, somewhere in that ballpark it was for last year. You know, I don't know what this year is going to be. They need to accumulate the orders from all the municipalities, and then they go in as a bulk rate, and then they get a better price depending on supply and demand, which my assumption, the demand is not going to be there. So it's probably going to go up.
And the other thing is that you're shifting to brine. More
Yeah.
and more, or-
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, no, I mean, we anti-ice before a storm, and that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years. But if we really want to get our totals down for how much salt we use per storm, you got to pre-treat it, meaning you put a tank on the back of the tailgate in our case, or in other cases, they have saddle tanks, and it sprays brine on the salt as it's being dispersed out of the back of the truck. So it activates right away. And typically when you do that, you can cut this. So right now we're at like 200 to 250 pounds per lane mile. You could probably cut that down to about 100 that you would have to use if you would spray that at the spinner or at the auger when you're using it in the moment of. Or you can, you know, if we get to that point, which I don't know if we ever will, we don't really have the equipment for it, but you can utilize liquid brine to treat your roads as you're plowing and everything else, and never put granular down again. You just got to you have to have a good reoccurrence. So whatever you go out at, you have to be able to get back there within like an hour and a half. And that's really not a problem for us, but you got to have the equipment to do it too. The volume, you know, we just don't have the volume. If I were to use it, we only have what we have on the truck. I have to drive out to Racine County or out to Cudahy and get it and drive back. And that just takes time. You don't really want to be not here when the snow's falling. You know, you want to be here fighting the storm. So
you essentially manage this, and you're reporting what the situation is.
Yeah,
We have an
that's
order for-
we're doing better than last year,
Yeah.
but we still have a surplus. So if the state will not buy back the salt, then we have to pay a storage fee, which is $5 per ton per month to store it down at Jones Island.
And that's no different. We've had that in the past, and that's the worst case scenario, but it's
Yeah.
Better than having to try to jam it in.
Right. Or
put it on the
like
ground.
last year, have a whole bunch of salt that we have to worry about.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at.
Doesn't require any action from.
No, just letting you guys know. The next one is the salt storage non-compliance. So again, speaking about our salt shed, every year we get inspected by the state, and AECOM is the company they subcontract out with that comes out and takes a look, and they basically inspect your salt barn to make sure that it's being stored properly and that you have all the qualifications done. And we failed. We're non-compliant in there. Basically, they say our doors need to be repaired. We are aware of that. They are damaged from, I don't know, just over time, and I'm sure somebody hit them with a loader or something, or truck, I don't know, but the doors are kind of jacked up. And then there's some truss supports that are on it, that somebody must have been loading it with a loader, and the bucket must have hit them and busted them. So it's supporting the roof. So they want us to repair those 2 items.
Those are good things.
Yeah, well, it'd be better if we didn't have any issues, but
Right,
that's pretty limited. Yeah, and we're looking at getting that done, and there is a fine if you don't do anything, but we're looking to get it done. And then the third one is I submitted the MS4 report, which is a municipal separate sewer system report annually sent to the DNR. Basically, it categorizes our operations in the stormwater utility, how much money is being accounted for certain job duties, and making sure that we're doing the necessary work that needs to be done, all the tasks that need to be done. For the stormwater, basically to keep that as clean as we possibly can. That since we're right next to the lake, I don't want to say it's more important for us than it is somebody inland, but we are discharging directly to the lake. It doesn't accumulate in a river or creek or stream or anything like that before it gets to the lake. So, but we have to fill that report out, and it basically asks you about your leaf collection, what you do, how you do it. If you have any catch basins within your community that you're vacuuming them out, so that all that phosphorus doesn't get discharged into the lake right away, because that's the big thing now is the phosphorus in the lake. And the other one is they want to know if you're street sweeping, getting all the material off the road before it gets into the ditches or into the catch basins and gets into the lake. They want to make sure it's all cleaned out and you landfill it before it gets to the lake. So you just fill out all that stuff to make sure that you're doing all that, and based on your operations and the money you allocated in the department to do certain things and be able to have money to do the work that is required to do. So I filled that out just to let you know about that.
And what happens with that? It just is a process. It is processed by the department that receives it. Do we get something back from them?
No, we don't get anything
It's
back.
just our report. This is the fact.
It's just the fact of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then based on the DNR, I would assume it would have some sort of impact on our WNP. It's the stormwater permit that we have to file with the DNR to be able to discharge our water into the lake, and we have to renew that here in the next year.
So there possibly be any compliance issues based on your report?
No.
Good. All right. Is there anything further that we should discuss on that, or we're good?
No, it's just information letting you know that it happened and it went out, so you're aware. Pretty much every time at this time, we had the MS4 is due March 30th, so we have to do it every year.
Okay. Then moving on to the action items, we've got 5 points. One was added on the amended agenda. The first is to discuss the GIS proposals. We had kind of limited that down, cut it down to 2 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're attached, and we see the results.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's had a chance to look at those. Where are you netting out on that?
Well, Baxter and Woodman was 11.6 for the base fee, and then they have license fees and stuff like that, and then all the add-on options. And Mead Hunt got down to 11.5, and they're of the same ilk. But they're both very reputable companies. They're both very good at what they do. They both provide basically the same stuff, dashboards, layers that we can add later on. They're both very good. I'm fine with either that you decide.
Which one do you like?
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm all about relationships, like how are you with us? Can I get a hold of you? If I need something done, can you do it for me? That kind of stuff. Baxter and Woodman, not that they require to, it's not what I'm looking for, or not that I would expect it. They submitted the quote and I haven't heard from them since. Mead Hunt has literally been calling me every week. How's it going? Did you any word yet? How's it going? Anything we can do, let me know. And I understand it's a salesman's pitch and they do that to get the job, and then maybe they'll disappear after they get the job. But I mean, they've been literally calling me left and right.
Have you had anybody else you in contact with that they have?
They have multiple with lots of people, and I did contact. I don't know who the municipalities are offhand, but I did contact a couple of them and ask them if there were any issues or anything like that. And for both companies, they said they were fantastic. They were great. I think it's more of in the circumstances where I called the people, it was more of a, they didn't have anything. Now they got it and they're all excited because they got it. You know, it's like going from a Chevy Chevette to a, you know,
Lamborghini.
yeah. And it's like, I don't know, I got no complaints at all. It's free, it's phenomenal. You know, it's kind of like that. There's not when it comes to this, there's not a lot of issues per se, other than maybe storage, but everything, I mean, that's from my experience back in the day, but now everything's on the cloud. There are no restrictions to any of that stuff anymore. So you can do whatever you want. This can become as big and as elaborate and detailed as you want it.
What's his find the sewers?
And the water. That's all I care about right now is that. All the other stuff we can put on later on, give access to the, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I know Travis looked at it a little bit and investigated a little bit, but I mean, there's a lot of communities that put links on their websites to give access to residents to look at all this kind of stuff. So we can go as far as you want to go. It's either or.
In terms of annual licensing fees, are they comparable?
Yes, it has nothing to do with Baxter and Woodman or Meat Hunt.
Well, I understand that. but-
It's strictly with Esri.
Okay,
That's a separate company that no matter if you go with Meat Hunt or Baxter or Reichert Milky or RS, it doesn't matter.
that's the engine.
It's what Esri says they need to do. So they don't tack on anything for it. It's just a straight up charge. It's just a matter of like, who do you want access? You know, who wants access to it, to use it, to look at it, you know, that's what drives the cost as to how many people have the ability to do what they need to do.
Do you think citizen access to the databases is important?
Without getting too far off topic, if you can maybe instruct or have instructions for them to look up stuff, I think maybe right-of-way lines and stuff would be very valuable for some people to know where they are. But again, information's only as good as people that have access and the ability to use it. I mean, that might cause more conflicts than anything else. So I'm not saying to give people access. I'm just saying you can if you want to.
Kind of
Maybe it's just more of just looking at a map or something like that.
leaning it towards the people actually using it.
Yeah.
Staff.
The first priority, that was just find the sewers, the actual utility
Yes.
use.
Yes. So we can find it like that without not being able to find it. Yep, exactly.
And so you've had experience with Baxter, you've had experience with Meat Hunt or not?
No, I have not. I have never used Meat Hunt for anything.
It just appears that they're hungry
Very,
in terms of the responsiveness.
very much so.
And if you had to weigh that on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is that? If 10 is most important.
I'd say it's got to be everywhere between 8 and 9. If I need to get a hold of somebody, I want to be able to get a hold of somebody. And if we need it, if I'm calling you because I need it, it's because I need it. It's not because I want it in a couple months. I want it as soon as I can. So that's if we would want that,
How do we proceed on this, Travis? He picks one and we say go, or we say go and he picks one.
Either way, it's in the budget, but since it's here, you guys can
I'm
make a motion.
comfortable with the board, the committee making it.
Yeah, so it just need a
recommendation
motion
if,
and a second to recommend whichever one you want.
or you can just choose, but
I mean,
I support.
I got a great relationship so far with Meat Hunt. I don't see it being any different. So not that I don't have with Baxter. I don't want to make it sound like I don't.
Well, it's just that, like,
we can make a
the issue,
motion to that effect.
well, the issue with the culvert with Baxter and what it was, makes me a little queasy about them.
Yeah, I mean, that isn't the end all, but it certainly wasn't one of my favorite experiences.
What was the culvert issue? I don't think.
Just the way the whole process unfolded, the culvert failed, and it took over a year to resolve getting it out for bid, but the way it was handled, we were led to believe it'd be one figure, and it came back and jacked up. It got up to over $500,000.
It's almost twice the bid,
It
or
was supposed to be
if I'm not
250
mistaken,
and it got-
And it was
70%
over.
over.
It was just unfortunate. It
And
probably, you could say that it's inflation, you could say that it's the times we're in, but in terms of supply and demand, a lot of construction projects that were, taking over and the bids were going up. Nonetheless, it was, we got it done for, Scott got it done for
30,000 or something.
Yeah, when it was all said and done after the grant.
Something like that, 30, 40,000, but we got a grant that paid for 75%.
And it's the best looking temporary fix I've ever seen.
It does look good and it's holding up, so that's all that matters.
I think we may have paid less than 20 out of pocket.
Something like that. I don't know. Travis would know better than I.
So I guess I would entertain or make a motion to make the motion. I make the motion that we accept the GIS proposal from Mead and Hunt.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
I
Aye. Okay,
thank you for that, Scott.
it's been a long time, by the way.
It has been.
It was discovered to be on the table for over, I guess now 3 years. And what we did want to do is have Scott have the opportunity when he came on board to review and actually, study what he would like. And he wound up with 5 proposals, which that in itself is maybe is a statement of, it's important. And so I'm
It is.
glad that you went through that. You wanted to see what was out there. And it turns out that in reality, they're all pretty much going to do the same thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but we wanted to check it all out to make sure. We wanted them to present what they were going to offer instead of just a piece of paper to someone.
One did have a platform that was non-standard, and so that didn't seem to be.
It did, yeah.
So I think in total, it's been a very good process, and it actually hasn't delayed us. We're moving on, so that's good. The second item for review and possibly taking action on is an ordinance regarding right-of-way tree language, and that would be on pages.
Starts at 92.
Okay, what's
94,
the genesis for this? What's the reason for this?
Okay, so the reason for this is back in 2015, and I know I gave it to him. I'm looking on my phone. I didn't want to print out 108 pages, but it's, what'd you say, 92?
94.
So what it is there was a policy that was written back in 2015 about trees. And on it, going off of memory until I get to it, but it basically said that if a tree is identified in the right of way, it shall be removed, trimmed, treated by the village. And tells you about all that stuff that it does. And then if it says if a tree was identified on private property, it would give the village right to go onto that property. If you got a complaint about a dead tree and somebody's worried about the tree falling on their house, it would allow us to go on there. We would go identify if the tree is diseased or not, and then give a notice to the resident saying you need to cut down your tree, blah, 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 blah. And we got 60 days to do it. If you don't do it, we'll find a contractor to do it. And you'll have to pay. However, I did talk to Eric Larson about the difference between a policy and an ordinance. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he said policy is more in-house. It doesn't have any legal merit. I don't know, but all I know is a policy is more of like, we'll decide that we don't want to have lunch anymore and we just want to work a straight 8 or whatever the case may be, something like that, where you don't need to put it in an ordinance. It's just something you want to do as a department or as a village. An ordinance is you all decided that and voted on that this is the way you want it to be from here on out. And that's the way it is. So
This is the current policy on page 94?
correct.
Okay.
That from 2015 that I think is in place now. The thing, my concern is that in the past, I have seen letters and I can't verify based off of what tree they're referring to, but I have gone and looked at the houses and I think I know which tree they're talking about. But letters were sent out to residents that their tree was going over the road and it was flicking on cars or getting hit by trucks or, it's blocking the stop sign or whatever the case may be. And they were told to trim it. Well, it kind of goes against the first paragraph where it says if the tree's in the right of way, it's our tree. And you will all know later on that the right of way isn't defined as 15 feet from the edge of the pavement or whatever the case may be. Our right of way in the village jogs around all over the place. Some people have 4 feet of right of way in front of their yard, and you go across the street and they got 30 feet and it goes 10 feet from their front door. Now, I'm not saying that we need to, start trimming trees up in people's front yards that they obviously planted and there are trees. The reason this is coming up is that I want to know if we're truly going to do this and the right of way, all trees within the right of way defined by the village as right of way, that any tree that's in there becomes the village's property and that we're responsible DPW wise to maintain it, meaning trim it or
But the
do whatever.
ordinance Doesn't say that we're.
We don't have an ordinance,
No.
but the policy says we are. Because it says if the identified tree is located on village property or right of way, it shall be removed, trimmed, or treated by the village.
Yeah, I don't like that.
We don't have the manpower and we definitely do not have the equipment.
We don't have an arborist, do we?
No. I mean, I can trim a tree. I mean,
I
you don't
understand.
need that, and I can identify disease and stuff like that. But if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty on that, there's not many. There are probably half of the municipalities that have arborists, but other halves don't. It's not mandatory. It's just, it puts a huge burden on the village.
No.
Was all that subcontracted then, if it has to be, if it's total removal of a huge tree on village property?
Honestly, I saw letters that just sent it out to the residents.
No,
for
I
them
know,
to
how
deal
would you
with.
handle that now?
Oh, I would have to have contractors do
You would
it.
subcontract?
Yeah. I don't have an aerial truck to go do it.
Exactly.
I can do it, but we don't have an aerial truck that I can go do it with. I won't be able to get to it. So, and the genesis for this is 4 Mile Road. So based on the design that is approved by the board, there may be some trees that have to be removed based on the design or based off a utility going in or whatever the case may be. If we define that the trees in the right of way are ours, we can remove them as we see fit. If we deem all the trees from the road to the house are residents' obligation, then if we need to remove a tree, then I think we need to, and I could be wrong, but I'm almost thinking we have to notify the resident. Well, can we help you?
I guess I'm in the wrong place.
Police station?
No, White House.
You're here.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a white thing?
Yeah.
yeah.
We're having a.
Whatever the problem is, guys, just give it to me and I can. That's a joke.
Oh,
I'm here to see White House. That's all.
Okay,
oh, we're having a committee meeting right now.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
so there's nothing inside here, you would go around. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Check out the lens on your way out. Yes, it's $1 million.
So,
If I can take it in my truck, I can have it, all right?
Don't touch it.
so if I don't know legally wise, but if we start doing construction, because we've never really done any before here in the village, and we start replacing storm and start ripping up stuff and a tree's in the way, if we consider it a private tree, do we need to get permission from the resident to do it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, if it's on their property,
Well, that's defined by whether or not you feel the tree that is in the right of way is still the resident's responsibility. Which goes against what the policy is right now, which what I've said before, a policy is more of an in-house thing
no, I
rather
understand.
than a lay of the land, law of the land kind of a thing.
I think one of the critical items in tree law is very specific. And if it's in the right of way, or if it's in the right of way, I believe, you'd have to have Larson on this.
I did contact them about it.
Okay, so who owns the tree in the right of way?
Everybody's different and they're all defined differently based on ordinances. So they're not in the packet, but I have like 6 other municipalities where that is defined in their ordinance. It's
Well,
defined.
If residents are
Who-
required to mow the grass and everything else. they should
Correct.
come up with the tree too.
Yeah, and some municipalities aren't like that. Some municipalities are like, if the tree falls within our right of way, we'll maintain it, we'll take care of it. We'll remove it. We'll do all that stuff. Because believe it or not, there's some municipalities out there that the residents can't stand trees. And they would love to have an asphalt jungle all over the place and not have a tree in sight. And there's some municipalities that love trees and don't want you to touch them.
Most of those trees are planted right away by residents, not people.
Correct. And that poses a problem too, because then you don't have control over the type of tree that's planted in the right of way. So you have a resident that plants a crabapple per se, and it grows not very tall and it grows really wide, and that gets out into the road. Or you have them plant a pine tree, which is very wide at the bottom and very small at the top, and that encroaches on the road, encroaches on signs, and you have no control over that. A lot of municipalities like to have control over what you're planting if they give you permission to plant within the right of way. And I think that's defined in the policy too, that it has to be approved by the village. And a lot of municipalities have that. That if you're going to plant a tree and you feel like the right of way is their residents' property, at least let us know, and so we can approve what type of tree you put in there. Because we don't want it to be a problem 10 years from now, where it's growing out into the road in order for us to trim it, because most trees need to be trimmed 14 feet high on the street side. So it clears trucks, Amazon, UPS, all that other stuff. You don't want it to hit it if you plant the wrong tree in order to achieve the 14-foot height. So the branches don't hit cars and stuff. It'll look like a Q-tip. It'll look terrible. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's just how far does the village want to go?
So you have this chapter on trees, which is, something from Hales Corner, but it said that this is not an ordinance.
Yeah, it is.
This is an ordinance?
That is an ordinance that's in their municipal code.
Okay, I didn't understand that was an actual ordinance.
Yeah, I pulled it right from there.
So this is an example, and you have
Correct.
5 others evidently.
Yeah, I got Bristol, Union Grove, Waterford, Caledonia.
And is this one that you find?
I was just using it as
Something that you would
so you
support?
are familiar with what another municipality writes as far as what their language is and what they want.
So it could go a lot of different directions. And
Yes.
you've looked at 4 or 5 or 6 of them.
Mhm.
Have you come to any conclusion on your own, or you just know that there are a lot of?
I don't even know.
Issues.
I don't even know if it's legal, but I would love to have the ability to remove a tree based on construction and what the village wants to do construction wise on a road, water, storm, whatever they put in, that they have the ability to do whatever they want within their right of way, because that's why it's there. But when it comes to the actual maintenance of them and stuff like that, we just don't, we just can't. So I don't know if you can have it both ways
Yeah.
as far as responsibility,
Is that something
Yes.
that you haven't talked about with Eric?
Well, I did.
Eric's
Travis
reviewing one
actually
right now.
received it.
He's
He-
reviewing one right now. He'll have a
Okay.
sample hopefully in like a month.
But back on November 12th of last year, Eric basically said, don't get involved with trees because it's a nightmare.
He didn't tell me that. though.
They just kind of said it in here.
But we asked him again and I sent it this time
Oh,
and he didn't say anything back. He just said, okay, I'll get on it. So I don't know. We kind of drifted away from maybe giving him 5 and we told him what we wanted to focus on instead. And
Yeah.
so we said,
You
focus
know,
on
it seems to me the road work that's scheduled
Mhm.
creates a situation that's very clear.
mhm,
So there's gonna be a consequence one way or the other. And
mhm.
we probably want to have control of the right of way or wherever the construction is going on along the lines that you suggested, that we need to be able to remove things that are in the way, and do have that right, I imagine, because it's
Yeah,
in the domain or
the
something.
problem the problem with this stuff now is that obviously the village didn't go out and plant trees. We didn't do it.
But it
The
would be-
resident probably
it would
did
be
it,
in the
so
whole
it's,
cost of whatever this project is.
there's gonna be a cost.
Including the litigation.
It's gonna be a cost, and then some of these trees, I mean, I have been involved with it. Some of these trees get very personal for people.
No, I understand that.
So they don't,
But if they're on top of the water line or whatever it is, the sewer now, then it has to come out. I mean, there's gotta be some pretty clear cut resolutions of those things, whether or not it avoids litigation, I don't know, but
yeah,
we're gonna face that regardless if we have to fix the road. I mean, or we decide not to do anything
or you're going around it.
and we just do whack-a-mole and continue. That's our strategy, right? So, no, I think.
Definitely could be that, yes, that's,
A
it's
strategy to
a legit point.
derived from our policy, which is, we're not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
What I said before, being able as a construction project only, if we are doing a construction project on your road and you have trees within the right of way,
Who's responsible? That's the first.
that the resident is responsible for their tree, but when there's a construction and it's a road construction project and that tree based on design or whatever, if it needs to come out, we have the right to take it out without asking
At the village
permission.
expense. At the village expense.
Correct, at the village expense, not the, yes.
And it would be part of the entire contracted project.
Yeah, because there are things like road construction wise where maybe the tree doesn't have to be removed from because of the project, but it's very low. So the contractor, a very common thing is they want every tree that's in the road right of way to be at 14, 16-foot height. So their excavator, when it's digging, doesn't start knocking branches all over the place. They want a clear path. Well, that's a cost too. Somebody's got to come in and somebody's got to trim all those trees up and down 4 Mile Road, which can get very costly.
For some wild ass guess,
But you're not going to rely on a resident to do it. I
would
don't
you anticipate that utility poles are in the right of way?
They are,
Okay, just asking.
and that is another subject, but that may delay the project by having to move those based on the design too. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Aren't utility poles always in the right of way?
Typically, they're right on the line.
On the line.
Most of the time, they are in the right of way, but they're right on the line where that's a defining of where the right of way is for the most part, because they don't want any conflicts of any kind. So they put it as close to the line as they can for
And-
private and public.
Is it a right of way or is it an easement? Right of way?
Easement gives you the ability to enter onto a private property to do some maintenance or do some work. Right of way is I don't need permission to do that.
Who owns that property? Is
The
it-
village does.
Yeah, okay, so it's clearly within that.
Now, get like Ken said, it's just because it's villages doesn't mean that we go and cut everybody's front yard up within the right of way. You're still legally supposed to maintain it, but
Well, what I can envision is we're gonna have a proposal, a program that will eventually, I would hope, get approved to everyone's satisfaction, and then it has to be implemented.
Mhm.
And you're at the implementation part of it.
kind of
Yeah, but all this is the setup to that, you know.
correct.
And so it's what's required. You have to lay the groundwork, and that's what I commend you. I understand you're looking at it saying, we got to deal with these issues.
Mhm.
Okay. But we need to deal with them in a manner that's consistent with what our objective is, which is to responsibly update all the utilities that are impacting services to our residents. And we're starting at 4 Mile Road, and that's a good case study.
Correct.
And so whatever is right for that, it's got to be right for the rest.
Correct.
And so
Kind of setting the
if this
precedence.
policy isn't an ordinance, if it isn't the accurate policy,
It's not right.
the
This-
policy is not an ordinance.
No.
No.
We'll have like an ordinance draft, kind of waiting still from Eric to get it drafted so you can see it.
So
before.
this is this one may be moot right here as far as, I mean, it's there, but it would be canceled in lieu of
Because the
an
ordinance, yeah.
Right, I mean, that would take precedence. So-
Yep.
So we don't need.
So
I'm
what are
sorry.
we supposed to do?
I was gonna say, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on
No,
this policy, other than the fact that it shows that there's an issue.
Yeah,
And I guess what we need to do is drive towards a solution that maximizes our flexibility and ability to implement the renovation of the roads.
yeah, and so because if RA Smith has their way, I mean, they're gonna start digging in November or October. So we would have to have something in place that we could, notify residents and give them a heads up and let them know what's kind of going on what we're doing. And, with government, everything takes time. So
Right.
everything's slow, snail paced. By the time they write stuff, it's adopted, goes through, voted on, everything else. So
If we
I just want
propose-
to get that
Is this in
conversation
that- is
started.
this in Eric's bailiwick right now? I mean,
yeah, it's for almost 3 weeks he's been working on it.
So there's nothing we can do today on this.
No.
No, but I think, so that's the discussion part of it. We're not gonna be taking action.
If it goes to ordinance, there has to be a public hearing?
No.
No?
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Well, being-
this is one example of 5 or 6 or an infinite number of them.
Yeah, just kind
Okay.
of giving you an idea of what other people think and how, what they want to do. how they
I'm
wanna
just wondering
approach
if it wouldn't be helpful if we know our strategy is being driven off of 4 Mile Road and subsequent improvements.
Mhm.
We need something that is going to be to the village's in best interest and to the residents' best interest. There's got to be, we have to make a chart, a course. that
Kind of,
allows
yeah.
us- And you would prefer it to be that we can implement this for the construction within the right of way, but then not have residual right of way maintenance, responsibilities for the trees.
That would be my dream, yes.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be my direction would be, that's what you have to work out with Eric. Can you do that? I don't know the answer.
I don't know if legally we can. That's my
Well,
only
But
question.
that's what he's there for.
Not
Yeah.
right now, don't you, we have the responsibility to mow the grass in the right of way.
We do. But we have the ability to mess up your grass and
Sure.
install a storm in there if we need to. So it's
And
You know,
most
it's
people
kinda like
end up
the
mowing grass.
maintenance part is yours, but it's not really, you don't own it kind of a thing. So it's just a weird,
On my
it's just a
side,
weird
So if I
dynamic.
plant a tree
I
there,
would-
then it's my responsibility to take care of it.
Yeah.
It should be.
And what we've said, like going forward is that, if you decide that you want to plant a tree there, you're taking the risk that we may or may have to remove it for construction. Because I don't think it's feasible to design anything road wise or utility wise by avoiding everybody's stuff in the right of way. The whole purpose of a right of way is to not have anything in it. So you don't have these kind of problems. We just don't have that. We have a lot of stuff in our right of ways that you have to deal with. Unfortunately, that was done 40 years ago. It's not something that happened anytime soon. The trees that are on 4 Mile Drive or 4 Mile Road are monstrous.
Yeah.
They're huge. So they've been there a while.
I was just gonna draw that, you're talking about mowing the grass right away. Does the city do that, or does a lot of residences, like the property line is 10 foot off of the, from part of the house. We're on a cul-de-sac and it cuts
Yeah,
way
yeah.
in. And
Exactly.
those are all city trees, but who takes care of them? We do.
Right.
I mean, I don't call the city and say, trim my tree. I trim all my trees. I could if it had to be removed, yeah. But I mean, so that's the loose negotiation. I mow the grass. I rake the leaves.
Exactly.
But whose leaves are they? They've got VMP on all the leaves, It's genetically, So, there has to be some common sense in all of that.
I
And
agree.
plus there has to be the universality of cost and who's going to pay for this thing. And so that is where the debate is going to come and the argument's going to come.
Exactly.
I kind of agree with you that for construction purposes, you should have the right.
And I would think that legally you do because of like eminent domain or whatever, you got to get the thing done.
It's not in the
You can-
domain. I don't think it's-
I'm not saying be heavy-handed at all. That's not what I'm talking. I would imagine the right of way gives us the ability to do that in most circumstances. You're saying no because it's so hodgepodge. I stand corrected.
It can be because I've had the conversation with Barry Smith that they want to know like where the right of way line is. They know generally where it is, but they want to know exactly where it is. And in order to do that, they would have to pull plat surveys from every house, which requires a lot of money to be able to do that. For every one of the houses on 4 Mile Road, it was $30,000
Mhm.
extra. They're not tacking anything on. That's just pulling the deed and the cost it takes to pull the deed to determine where the lot lines and the right of way lines truly are. And that he said you would want to do that. If we can get away with not having to do that, it's better to do that. But if you have any thought that there is a tree in the right of way that somebody is very passionate about, they can stop the project, get a lawyer, and it can delay the project between 6 to 9 months to do that. So they said, if you have any idea that there may or may not be something like that, it's better to go pay the money and go get it done than delay a project 9 months, which is going to cost you a heck of a lot more than 30 grand based on lawyer fees and everything else. So to your point, I actually thought it was in our right of way. We could do what we want, but apparently not.
The right of way is generally established from the center line of the roadway.
No, because not all the time is the road in the middle of the right of way. So you can't go off the center line. For example, on the curve down here, if any of you know Sanabria, the
Yeah, sure.
former president, she has 4 feet of right of way. Like the road, edge of the road to the right of way line is 4 feet. And then when you got that White House on the inside corner, it's like 30 feet.
Ooh,
Because back in the day, they had a road that was a 90-degree stop. And at some point, and the right of ways are platted out well before the houses and the roads and everything goes in. It's done by somebody, county or something like that. They plat everything out. And then they put in roads based on where the right of way lines are. You would think they would go right in the middle, but not all the time. So at some point, somebody decided to change the road and make it into a curve. And in order to make it engineered, to make it safe, they had to push it way over to the east. And now it's 4 feet off the right of way line. So not all the time is the center line. Long story. But
I've just asked.
center line is not always in the center of the road or center of the right of way.
The road on that curve, for instance, is in the right of way.
Correct.
Not centered.
It's not centered,
No,
and the 4 feet is the property line, but it's not, the road is not on personal property or private.
no, correct.
Under any cases, are property lines in the right of way? It can't be, can it?
Map wise, yeah.
Yeah.
Travis just sent me one today.
So it
So
can
the ju-
happen. Okay.
Yeah, it depends, obviously you have to go pull the plat surveys and do all
Well,
that
yes,
kind of stuff,
precedent
but basically, yes, because those are recorded documents. Right now, we're going off our GIS, which is not legally binding from the county, and that's the information we got, so that's what we're using. So,
But the county is the source of all plats.
correct, but they don't look at every single one. I don't know if they look at every single one of the plats and go like that. I think they just generalize the
Suppose I'm a
line.
resident, you look at the plat and say, oh, I don't agree with that. You gotta do a survey
Correct,
to
correct,
prove it.
correct.
That's on that.
And that's on a residence
Good job.
case, not, the village doesn't pay for that survey, the
But as
resident.
far as the cost and expense and the pushing the button for the plats, the $30,000 is what I heard. It sounds to me like there's a 99% chance that that's going to be necessary.
No, unnecessary,
Avoid-
unnecessary. Because right now the road is where the road is, so we don't have any issue as long as we don't increase the footprint greatly.
I thought we were talking about these
Well,
mysterious trees that are gonna.
We are, and there may be some trees that are affected. I just don't know right now because we don't have a design yet. So a definitive design, which you guys all have to vote on.
Plus, I think on the wish list would be some sort of bike path, walking path.
Which may affect those trees.
Right.
Depending on what you go with, but yeah. It's all part of the process. We're in the beginning stages, steps to determine how we approach things. So when we get farther into the project, we already have that decided. We know where to go.
But in order to answer the plat question, you have to spend money and it takes time.
They said only if you feel that it's necessary based on the design, that we have a thought that it's going to encroach really close to where the right of way may end or may be, then it would entertain the idea of pulling those. But as of right now, we do not have to do that.
So if we could pull plats from the county, that's no charge, is it?
Mhm.
There is a charge?
Mhm.
What's it cost to get a plat from the county? Do you know?
I think it's like, I could be wrong, but I think it's like $350 to $500.
Per property?
Mhm. Yeah.
Do they have a quantity discount?
No, and there's like, I could be wrong, but I think there's like 85 properties on 4 Mile Road.
I would certainly like to know, if we could talk to somebody at the county and say, hey, we need plats from here to yonder. And
I can ask,
Well,
but
I hear it from
guaranteed
you,
there's a
right?
lot of municipalities that do construction projects, and I don't think the county really cares about whether or not, how long your project is or isn't, to giving you a discount. It is what it is.
Well, listen to you.
I
don't
could
think we're
ask
at
them.
that point where you have to decide to do that. You haven't got to that point.
We
where
haven't
you
gotten to that point yet.
Well, I got fixated on
Well-
that because I thought you were saying
There's
that.
another thing.
No, it's just, this is more about the effects of, I kind of have a general idea of where the right of way is, and we do have trees that are falling within that.
If you were,
And I don't know,
This tree policy is potentially broken for the construction purposes.
correct? That's
And,
to Carson's point, or Carmen's point, that's the genesis of this.
okay, and so then you have some ideas and Larson is looking at them. So I guess at this point, we're informed and you're gonna come back to us. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, you just can postpone until,
It sounds like
The
you
ordinance
guys
is
are gonna be
ready.
voting on the ordinance language, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
well,
just
you
postpone.
haven't-
Basically is-
I
That's
would-
my understanding.
Basically deciding whether or not you want the village to be responsible for the trees in the right of way or not. Right? I mean, that's what it basically boils down to.
Well, just a little side question, this with those utility poles. If they have to do anything like that, are they considering putting them on the ground?
No,
Just, you know,
they would never consider that.
And you should have,
Costs way too much money. We Energies would never give up that money. Never, ever, ever. It's a lot cheaper for them to put it above ground.
Okay.
You can
by
ask.
the way, subterranean power.
Yeah.
Well, the cable they lay is aluminum. And then Luther phase, you know, when the sacks drop out. So nothing 220 volts works here.
Okay, so are we tabling this now or what's the appropriate?
Just a motion, the second to postpone.
So we have a motion to postpone?
I make a motion to postpone the
Brief
action
discussion.
on the ordinance for right away for tree language.
You know, when we bring this back up, I think one of the key points is that that changes we will adopt an ordinance for construction. Right, so we don't have to listen to
Could be.
citizens hypotheticals, that it's for construction. Secondarily, GIS is not real.
Just do an ordinance free.
Just a question. I think you asked Eric.
No, I don't think so. It's a tree language. It'd be definition of, I guess, it depends on what he comes back with.
You can restrict it just to construction. I think that's what they're talking.
Yeah. I'm just asking.
Well, we don't really know yet
So
till Eric comes back, right?
Yeah,
And the GIS is absolutely not good to establish accurate lines right away.
Currently correct.
would the program we're purchasing and implementing eventually get us there?
The GIS is.
I hope so. That is a great question,
Or is
and
it
I
just,
will.
you know, the same manifestation? At least you know where it is, kind of, sort of, where you don't.
I would think in order for them to get an exact, because I mean, when I go tell people, when I define right of ways for residents that call up and inquire, political signs, everything else. I tell them straight up, this is plus or minus like 3 feet, because, you know, there's no exactness in where the lines are right now. And it's not legally binding either.
But the plat lines are not in a GIS system. So that's,
Because it costs a lot of money to pull all that stuff in, so. Unless we want to get that exact, we definitely can do that, but it will cost. 30, probably somewhere around, well, a lot more than that, because there's a lot of parcels in the village, so. That would cost a lot of money.
You have a motion in a second.
you second?
No,
I'll second.
yeah, Carmen did.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 3-0. All right, so we're going on to item number 3, which is review and possibly take action on ordinance regarding water service responsibility for construction, and that's pages 99 through 103. And there's a document. This is our current ordinance that's marked up or not?
That's what I drew, what I kind of put down as language borrowing from another community, and I think Eric redlined it.
the stuff that's crossed out is what we currently have, and anything in
Yeah.
purple is new.
Yeah.
So this Division 2 extension of water services
What we
is
This is our current ordinance. Yeah.
Right, in black, and then red is the modified changes.
Yep.
And what's crossed out is what's being deleted, what is new is in red.
Yep.
And so this is a draft of a revised ordinance.
I had a question on that. What's considered to be a curb stop?
That would be the blue small cap that we do for a shut off. So
Circular
have
in the lawn.
I made a map or a pictorial kind of a thing too, so people kind of know. But
It's curb stop, where is that the shut off?
yep, that's a shut off. So the water main that's in the road has what they call a corp adapter. It has a valve that's mounted right to the right to the main. That is not accessible. It doesn't have a valve box on it where you can pop a cap and access it. The curb stop is what's usually in your yard at the right of way line, that you can, if you're having some plumbing work and the plumber needs your water to be shut off, we can shut it off there.
Okay, when you put the new water meters in, you gotta shut it off too, right?
Correct. We'll have to do it there because we can't always rely on everybody having a working valve inside on either side of the meter for us to isolate. So we need to isolate out in the yard. So that's why it's there. So this is kind of talking about, because currently we don't define it as such. And again, this has a lot to do with the construction going on 4 Mile Road in the future, is that I think we need to define, and there's an example in there of what the village and the utility owns and what the village does not own.
Okay.
So the resident knows. So if there's an incident that's coming from their service, what we do is we shut off the curb stop. And if the incident stops, we know that the incident is on the resident side. If it's still coming up, we know it's on our side, and that's our responsibility to replace. So there's a lot of language in there regarding services and the ownership of it for maintenance purposes, so that people know exactly who's responsible and who's not when they have an issue. And then not only that, it's for the cost and for the price for using or purchasing stuff when the new utilities go in.
For reconstruction.
So, yep, so the utility would pay for the main, and then if you decide to, which 99% of the municipalities do, the utility owns from the main to the curb stop, including the curb stop. That way they have a little bit of control as to when they can do it, how they can do it, and stuff like that. So with this new project going in on 4 Mile Road, if you decide that the village utility owns the service from the main to the curb stop, we would replace that when we replace the main. If we have the home, and there are some municipalities that the homeowner, the resident owns from the main all the way to the house. They have the choice then to say, yeah, I don't want to change it. I don't want to pay for it right now.
Mhm.
And then you put a brand new road in, and then 6 months later, they're digging it up because they have to repair it. So you want to kind of protect your investment. So while we're there, we have it ripped out, we replace everything to the right of way, and then we don't have to worry about it anymore.
And so this is your proactive, you with Travis's, you proactively address this and come up with what you think is the best practices kind of approach to it for a municipality,
Correct.
in our case.
Correct. For that situation, concerning the construction project and,
Yeah.
for paying for it and stuff, because then the utility will pay for all that.
Well, as I
instead of the
recall, we
homeowner.
generally discussed this and charged you with trying to do exactly this.
Correct.
Is this,
Go ahead.
is this on the standard menu of what we intend to replace on this project?
Mhm.
Or is it ad lib? If it looks funky, we're gonna put new in?
No, just
Everybody's getting new.
And then what I also need from you, since this is part of this too, is I need you to let me know whether you want this as plastic. And I apologize, I was going to call today, but I didn't have time with the voting setup. But I need to know if you want to put back plastic or you want to put back copper. Currently, right now, this is the service line from the main to basically every home is copper. Do you want that back or do you want plastic?
And lead's not a choice.
It's not a choice. Lead is not a choice.
How about steel?
Steel is not a choice.
Iron.
Wood you can do if you want. But no, right now, I don't know the exact figures, but my son is a plumber. And he said everybody's going to plastic because copper is so crazy expensive, which can drive your cost of the construction project way up.
What's the longevity? What's the
I guess it's
longevity
gone
of plastic versus
300%.
copper?
A penny costs 3 cents to make.
A lot of people are saying that, you know, the plastic will last just as long as copper.
Yeah.
I mean, when I built my house 22 years ago, they put from the well to my house, they put plastic and everything is still good. So no, it's HDPE. So it's very, very thick plastic. It's not like PEX. It's very, very thick.
Schedule 80 or
Yeah, it's like you can't bend it. It's really rigid. So, but it's a lot cheaper. I mean, I'm sure it's probably, 20 cents a linear foot, or copper is probably $4. I mean, it's ridiculous cost of how much is much more. But I need to know that too.
So that's in agreement with code too. You can put plastic in.
Yeah, you can. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of municipalities are.
So you're gonna have copper on the resident side, you'll have the new stop.
And
curb
plastic.
stop, and then you'll have plastic.
Yeah.
How does that merge together?
With the curb stop. So it's a valve. It's like a butterfly valve that goes like this, and on one side they're compression fittings, and it allows you to go oversized because there's O-rings inside, and you can slide the copper and the plastic in. I believe the plastic is a little bit bigger because it's thicker, because they go by nominal size inside the pipe, not the outside of the
How
pipe.
does compression deal with vibrations and stuff?
Fine. It's good. Plus, copper, you can put an S curve in it to accommodate for frost, so it has the ability to stretch and contract a little bit. Plastic, you really can't do that, but they very rarely do they pop out and it pulls out of the compression. It's pretty.
What's the frost level here?
Probably like, lately, like a foot, if that. But yeah, but typically like 3-4 feet, because when you
42 inches.
yeah, when you bury a post for a fence or something, it's got to be 3 to 4 feet deep in order to make sure you're beyond the frost line. But I've been part of really bad ones 5 or 6 years ago that the frost was 6.5 feet down. Just depends on
If you're driving over it, it drives the frost deeper.
The winter of 2019, when it was 20 below forever.
Yep, exactly, that polar vortex thing. Yep, that was 6.5 feet frost was.
My deck rose up.
Huh?
The footings weren't deep enough.
I'll bet.
That works.
Yeah. So I guess I just need a recommendation for the ownership. What the village wants to define as ownership. Do you want no ownership, just the main itself? You want the main, including the service up to the curb stop, including the curb stop? Or do you want to, which I know you don't, but own everything from the main all the way up to the house?
I think this is what we want.
It's what most municipalities have.
Curb stop.
Yeah.
To the street.
And you own it, and the village own the curb stop also, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Need a motion for this, or we?
This is a draft ordinance, so another one will be coming to you. So
The actual,
an actual one. Draft
just in
one.
case the language changes.
Just approve the language change. That's what we're doing
That's
right
what
now.
we want.
It's in the village water main up to the curb stop.
So are they
So
approved in the
it's-
red?
Go ahead with it.
I would wait till Eric has, because he hasn't even given his half page, what he's recommending, to see it. So this is just draft one to make sure everything's good. And if there's any other language, there's some language we had him redo, but otherwise I would wait till you see the next full piece that's recommended with the signatures and everything.
And so we need a motion to,
Postpone,
Postpone.
but at least you have your eyes on this and it's almost ready.
so I'll make a motion to postpone the Division 2 extension of water services modifications per legal review and subsequent review by this committee.
You got a second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. So now we have item 4, which is discussions on utility construction around responsibility costs. Is that the same issue that we've just discussed, or is there another? I didn't see that separately as.
There's more to it than that. It's more of a generalized thing that would basically the utility construction responsibility, because I haven't found anything, but what is the village responsible for? Do you want the village to be responsible for everything in the right of way? So if the village were decide to put, and we will be doing this, so wherever there's storm pipe being put in, we're going to run PVC leads to the right of way and cap them off. So if a resident wants to hook up their downspouts, their sump pump, they can hook directly up and it'll be at the right of way, and they're no longer digging within the right of way or in our ditch or in our gravel or anything like that.
That'll be a riser coming up in their yard, or?
No, we would just have a location of it, and then it would be buried 3 feet underground, and they could dig to it and just attach to it. It'd be like a
On the
4-inch,
right-of-way or
right to it.
right to the right of way?
Yep, and it would be a pipe that would be stubbed off of it, would run 3 feet underground, and then we just cap it. So if a resident didn't want to hook up to it, they don't have to worry about it. They never see it. If they do want to hook up a sump pump, so they don't have a black hose laying on top of their yard, they can have somebody trench down, dig down, hook up to it, and then they're good. It gives them the opportunity to. So while we're already in there, we have already installed the storm line and we're doing it, they would stub these out to the right of way. That the responsibility would be on the utility to pay for that. The other one would be approaches. When construction projects happen, we don't have anything defined as to what are we going to do for an approach that needs to be removed. Are we going to replace it in kind? Are you going to put asphalt in regardless? Are you going to put in specific, like you want the resident to have that option to pay the overage cost of whatever it would be beyond asphalt? I mean, there's other choices.
This is what I call the apron.
Correct, yes. So there are times where, like for instance, on 4 Mile Road, they're pulverizing the road, which there's 6 inches of asphalt there. When you pulverize it, obviously it's going to be a lot thicker, a lot taller. You know, there's going to be more product. And so it's going to increase the profile of the road. The road's just going to be higher. So you need to match all the driveways for that, so you don't have bottoming out where people are trying to, you got the road to the road edge being the driveway. You don't want it to be, if the road's going to be like this and it's going to go up higher, you don't want that dip where you're going to hit the bumper and bottom out all the time. So you have to cut back a little bit more of the approach or their driveway in order to make a nice transition. Well, how do you want to approach the replacement of the approach? You want to put it back as asphalt, which is going to be the cheapest way because they're putting the road down as asphalt. Or do you want to, what if somebody has a concrete driveway and they don't?
In the right of way.
Correct. And let's say they have a concrete driveway that they poured all the way out to the road, and we cut it out and we put asphalt back. They might not like that.
I can count on them not liking it.
Huh?
You could count on them. Oh, yeah.
Correct. Do we have a permit for the right of way? Yes, we do now, but some of these we're talking about were put in, 15 years ago. I don't think they pulled a permit for it, or if they allowed them to put concrete all the way up to the road, because there are a lot of people that do. Deepwoods does. Deepwoods has concrete all the way to the road. So they allowed them to do it. If we ever do a concrete, it's going to increase the cost because, they're there with an you're never going to put a concrete road in. You're going to put asphalt road in all day.
It's not an interstate.
Yeah, we're not doing that. But if they have a concrete driveway, that means you have to bring a separate crew in that has to deal with just that driveway instead of the same crew doing the road is going to be doing the approach to. A lot cheaper. Or some people have
Personal choice if they want to upgrade. I don't know. I think we have an obligation to look at cost and.
Huge cost. Not gonna lie.
4X maybe. You know,
Huge
yeah,
cost.
4X.
Yep. And then there's people that have stamped concrete.
But, you know, that's, I'm sorry, please repeat.
There's people that have stamped concrete.
Oh, my God.
And that is a huge, huge cost. Everything escalates everything. So how do you want to approach that? Culverts. Is the utility responsible for paying for the replacement of the culvert? We have 12 of them on 4 Mile Road alone that are in bad shape. Is that the residents' responsibility, or is that because we're doing the construction project to do it and we're removing their approach? Is that at the utilities cost? I talked to Caledonia and they pay for everything. Everything within the right of way that involves with the construction project, they take care of. Congratulations, happy birthday, Merry Christmas. You just got brand new culvert, brand new approach. You got brand new everything. It's on the village.
Asphalt, not concrete. You want to upgrade the stamp? It's on your ticket.
I
No,
mean,
but that's
there's a lot of
university.
these what do you call it? Ancillary
Insidious.
costs.
Yes.
Yeah, all these
Insidious.
costs that come up in construction projects that come up, and you can define them as individual or how you want to approach. But again, we don't have this defined in the village. So if I come across it, I don't know how to approach it.
Well, if you're gonna be consistent. If you're
And
gonna do it
for
the
future
trees,
too.
If you're gonna do it for the trees, you gotta do. it
And
for-
that's on my thing too, because I said, based on our earlier discussion on whatever is decided with trees, it'd be the same way. You know, if we remove a tree because of construction, does that mean that we replace the tree back in kind and we start planting trees in the right of way to replace what we ripped out?
That's a no.
I mean, I'm throwing all this stuff out there. Like when we do construction projects, there's a lot of things that for residents that get ripped out, and how are we replacing them? Because they have to be replaced. Is the village and the construction project paying for it, or are we obligating the resident to pay for it?
Yeah, I'm not really big on that. Replacing trees in the right away anyway. But as far as the removing the trees for the construction and the culverts, we will replace the culverts, but not the trees, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well,
This is looking pretty. This is
dirt
fun.
road, we want a dirt road. We got motion for dirt road.
Dirt road will not go along with Travis's comprehensive plan.
Oh, for the future. Hold on a second. This is back to the future.
Back to the future.
Also have a dirt path.
So
I have a feeling.
these are conversations that we need to start having, because I need to know how to approach them. Like, you know, I mean, I hate to say it, but are we sending out a crapper load of invoices? Am I marking down, you know, material lists and stuff like that, and linear footage of material lists so we can keep track of what everybody owes and what this and that is, or is the utility in the construction project just paying for everything?
Yes.
I mean, that most people do, but then again, this all kind of goes into, you know, the borrow and how much we can borrow and what we borrow, and all this is all part of it.
You said yes, but is that a yes to whatever they had? Or is that stamped concrete, for example?
No, not a yes to that. It's,
That's why I would just say it goes back asphalt. If
so
you
I
got a
guess what I was
concrete
saying
driveway, I'm sorry.
was not meant to be cavalier. I think probably the only way you can get a project like this done without it being, I mean, it's going to cause a lot of concern and reaction, and there's going to be active discussion, no doubt about it, to everyone who's affected by the road and the change to the road.
Mhm.
And so this needs to be done to improve the service to the current standard.
This guy wants it again. What's he need?
It doesn't matter.
We're closed.
We're close. So what I was trying to say was that I think we need to look at we're doing this to bring the village into the 21st century. And I don't think it's reasonable to have individuals responsible for all the costs in the right of way that the village is causing.
Mhm.
Okay, and the village is causing it. It's our duty to do it, but, so we need to package it responsibly, and I think it's part of the overall financing. That's all I'm trying to get at. As far as replacing trees, no. As far as replacing exotic driveway approaches, aprons, no. It's whatever is standard and for everyone at the minimum. And if we want to accommodate upgrades, fine. Otherwise, it goes in as asphalt. And they just have to live with it. And they'll come in and tear it out and put their own thing in with or without a permit or whatever, or sue, or whatever they're gonna do. But
Or
I know-
perfectly clear, you're good with asphalt and nothing more.
Correct.
And if a culvert needs to be replaced based
Replace
on
it.
our
Has to be-
inspection, the utility pays for it.
Correct.
There's no above and beyond for a culvert. It is what it is. And then the material type of service, we're going with plastic.
Plastic.
Okay, and approaches are asphalt only, and then we'll figure out the tree thing later. And the storm leads will be paid by the storm utility. Whether the resident wants to hook up to it or not is totally up to
These
them. We're
stubs
not
you're
doing
talking
that,
about. Yeah,
but we'll stub to the right of way line and give you that outlet.
yes,
Because we don't want anybody digging up our road or
correct.
anything like that to put them in because
And I think
because
that-
I'm getting a lot of
I think it's also proactive to address, we have the storm runoff issue. We've got a lot of people putting pipe on top of the surface to drain downspouts, whether it's to the side or to the street. And,
Yep.
and that isn't very aesthetically pleasing.
no.
If we made connecting easy, and that's the solution, then we can take care of that other problem.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But in any case, are there different qualities of asphalt? That would be mine.
No, it would be the standard, same as the road. It would be typically road compaction of 4 inches, 2 1/4 inches would be 3/8 binder, which has the bigger stone. It's not so pretty on top. And then 1.75 or 1 3/4 of top coat finish
Which is
makes it
fine.
nice and smooth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
That's
I've
typically
seen
what they would
somebody-
do.
Maybe they weren't inspected, or you get the rough finish, and that's kind of sold as the final finish.
Yeah, no, what they would do is they would go down with the road, and as they entered a driveway that needed to be replaced, they would quick do it, rake it out, roll it, and then keep moving on with the road. That would be part of the road that they would do, because it would be joined together. It wouldn't be separate. It wouldn't be you don't want any cold joints. So,
Are the differences in elevation that you're talking about going to be extreme?
currently in their initial 25% design, there is not that many. There will be some that they had to adjust that will go back farther and
And would
probably
go
enter
past.
into private
Yeah,
property.
that's what I was wondering.
And we have to ask for a temporary limited easement, and they have to sign off on it, so they allow the contractor to enter onto their property to do this work.
The person with
But
the
it makes it the best product they can.
with the pressed concrete.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that yet, if it's one of them, but I looked on 4 Mile and there's only a couple, there's like 1 or 2 concrete driveways, all of them, the rest of them are asphalt, so we don't have that issue, but again, you're making this decision not based on just 4 Mile Road, it's all future projects going on, and there are those concrete driveways and stamped concrete ones out there, so you're preparing for that.
We had sewer repair down at the corner. That's 3 Mile and Lighthouse about a decade ago. Yeah, they took our apron out and then put it back in. It was adequate. I mean, it's.
Well, right now, it's the best asphalt in the drive.
Yeah. To be honest about it. Well, we actually had a situation where we then replaced our drive, but then wanted it to match, and so we went to the end, whether we should have or could have, we
Oh.
did,
Yeah,
so that there wasn't the disparity between the asphalts or the angles even, it was all just right to the road.
yeah, that there's anticipation for that to be a different, elevation or profile to get in, and you want it to be a nice.
So would you have to have a permit to do that going forward? If I, as the resident, was replacing the old asphalt and there had been an apron put in there, and I wanted all the,
all the way to the road.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to get a right of way permit, and I have to go out and look and make sure what you're
that would be a
doing,
no-brainer kind of thing if it
Yeah.
was done, yeah. So it's
I
not
mean,
an issue.
that
I
people would
pay for
actually
I'm
do
not
it.
expecting
Yeah, that people would actually do it, but yeah,
Because it looks nice.
Mhm.
I'm sure the concrete guy wants it that way too. or-
absolutely does.
I get it.
How many concrete we picture we have up? On
A lot. Yeah, I just watched the guy pour one on, I think it was Hollow Creek. Or Point View, one of those two. He poured it all the way to the road. Like, there's nothing I can do. I mean, I did the right of way and I told you that there's a chance that we may come through but they did it. So I don't think we're ever gonna make the road
So-
wider, but
Carmen, are you asphalt replacement also? In other words, no matter what we take out, it's gonna be asphalt.
Asphalt, yeah,
Culverts are on the village.
correct.
Okay. I feel the same way.
And so what are we at this point?
What is this thing? Yeah.
this one will coincide with the next one. I just separated it out.
Any action on those things?
No, but the next one you will. And it has to do with what we just decided on here. We'll just have to start plucking in those situations.
104 to 108.
Yeah. So this one is the adopting a uniform specs, minimum specs standard for the village for here and going into the future. If you notice on, what's that?
107, all driveway aprons shall be concrete.
Well, we would change a lot of this. This is what R.A. Smith pulled from another community. We would have to dress this up, but it's coming up with a standard minimum qualification before we even went there and started doing the work to do this. I wanted to make sure you guys wanted it, I guess. I'll have it ready for the village board, but for
So,
this
Carmen, where
going
did you
forward,
see
based
that?
on your
Where was
conversation.
107.
107, okay, so street openings, no.
Because we can't define, I would take out the
Here it is.
sanitary sewer main. We can't define that. Force main, we can't do. Lift stations, we can't do. Because it's not ours. But storm sewer, we can do.
So
Road construction, all that stuff.
this is a draft for the village,
Yeah.
pulled from some other template.
Mm-hmm.
And so you obviously, Carmen, found, one instance and Scott would have addressed that or
Well,
Travis.
based on our discussion, you want to dress it up.
Yeah,
I
so
will.
that's-
I will address
So it
it.
has to be consistent with what we just.
I just want to know that you want me to go forward and you want to create a construction minimum spec standard
Yes.
for all the future projects that are going to go on, that you want this at least the minimum of this. If a contractor wants to go above and beyond, we have to attach this to the bid. So the contractor knows what he's bidding on.
Okay.
So we have to do this. So I will have it ready for the board meeting.
And how do we know that this is all inclusive? I know that it's 99.9%. Are there areas that are potentially missing, or this is inclusive?
This is inclusive.
Okay.
This,
It's
most of
based
it,
on-
most of it's kind of covered. I did contact like Caledonia and Mount Pleasant, or was it Sturtevant? I can't, one of the other ones, and asked them about it. And they're a little bit different than us. They have a construction standard, and then they have what would be like a new development standard for like subdivisions that go in. They need them to be this because they're starting from a clean slate. There's like nothing there. And so they have a separate one that's an ordinance based, and then they have another one that's project construction based. Based on that, we're not going to get any subdivisions here anytime soon, so I don't think we need that. But I think we need something that's standard that we put together that everybody agrees upon. Like, are you good with yellow fire hydrants? They come standard red. We have to get them painted to be yellow. That kind of stuff. Coming right out of the factory, they're red. I mean, there's all those kind of things involved. So it depends on how you want your community to look. Maybe people don't like red hydrants. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they like the yellow because it camouflages in with the grass better. Well, I have no idea, but it was more about that kind of stuff for minimum standard.
And so this has been drafted, and what this is a letter of a specification. It's not an ordinance.
No, it would be kind of, what do you call it? It would be one of those documents that you could Is it like a policy? No?
I don't
What
know.
would this be?
I don't know.
A specification.
I guess.
But it's agreed upon by the board because this, again, this involves money. So whatever you decide that you want roads to be like, you want storm sewer, you know, a 12-inch storm line is a lot more expensive than an 8-inch storm line. A Watrous yellow hydrant's probably gonna cost, I don't know, it might cost a little bit more than a red one. You know, everything is money based. Everything has a cost driving it, you know, driving that document or whatever. So the recommendation, I thought it was, oh, no, I'm just saying we would define it as such, but we can define it as anything, you know, if you guys want Watrous hydrants more than Kennedy hydrants, or you don't care, you know, Kennedy hydrant looks a lot different than a Watrous hydrant.
So these are.
You have Watrous hydrants in the village. You want to keep everything consistent? I do. Makes it easier for parts and stuff. But
Well, I guess my question was, yeah, so those kinds of issues, who's
you know, minimum service
red
lines
versus
are an
green versus
inch.
yellow? You're gonna have that in here? It is in here? or-
If you want it, you don't have to, but I'm just saying that can be part of your minimum spec standard that when a contractor is doing a project on 4 Mile Road, he's gonna order all yellow hydrants.
Right, well, I mean, that goes back to. my
If it's
question,
not in there,
is
they won't.
Comprehensive or not, so how do we make it, what are we trying to accomplish with this? This is your first go,
Yeah.
and.
I just want to know that you want me to go through and make it comprehensive or make it detailed for just Village of Wind Point. Or do you not, you just want because the consultant like R.A. Smith, Mead Hunt, Baxter Woodman, whoever we use, they'll bring their own and they'll just pluck whatever they want. Like, let's say we go with Baxter Woodman for the next project because R.A. Smith is too expensive, or we didn't like the way they did the project last time, or whatever the case may be. And we go with Baxter Woodman and they pluck their template for the bid spec. It could be completely different than that. And now we have completely different stuff.
This is an addenda to the bid spec.
Yeah, we're just kind of making sure everything stays uniform from here on out. And this is what we provide the consultant that we want part of the bid.
You're gonna write this, or is this written?
No, I will.
Dull enough.
Yes. Yes, I will change it to what it needs to be by the board meeting. If you want me to go with that, if you like, we don't really need this, it's not really necessary,
It is necessary.
then I won't bother wasting my time with doing
No, I
that.
think,
Now, where can I let you waste your time?
but all we can do at this point is ask you to proceed with that,
Yes,
okay, and does that require a motion?
Yeah, you wanted to refer to the board, you're saying?
I do,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Then it would be a referral to the board.
Not this isn't ready.
No, the final draft will be.
final draft.
Okay.
I just gotta, the bones are there. I just gotta tweak some of the verbiage
Are
and
we
some
gonna
of the
see
language.
where it goes?
Yeah, the wordsmithing. So
To the
we'll
board?
Yeah, wordsmith it. I can definitely have it done so you can see it before the board meeting. Yeah, it will be part of the info packet whenever that goes out.
Well,
April?
I
Or we
was,
want to, or
We
we
could do it for May.
postpone this until the next meeting.
Oh, if you want to look at it at the May meeting, we can do that.
I'm just asking what is.
We can do that.
What the intent would be. Does that delay things?
No.
Given our limited understanding of this entire process.
I don't want to push anything right by you and you make hasty decisions that you regret later on. I don't want
That's
to
the
do that
words I
either.
like decisions.
So it's not really going to delay much of anything. It'll delay the bid going out. Instead of it going out in late May, it'll go out in or middle of June. It's not that big of a deal. We're not starting it this year anyway.
I think we can entrust you with,
Yeah.
with that. Obviously, you're gonna work in
Is that a
tandem.
motion? Because I'll second.
That didn't quite make it to the motion phase, but you'd be working in concert with Scott for this, is that right?
Yeah, we
I
could,
could assume it would
Have
go
it.
through Eric. No?
we could have.
Go through us.
Review it too, but then you just bring it back. Do you want to, I guess, do you
We
want?
don't need to see it
Okay.
again if you, I love the concept. We have to have it. I think we're all in agreement. I don't see that they are yellow or green, so I mean, that should
Yeah.
probably get decided so that we don't wind up with pink
Just
ones.
because this is the way it is now. I won't change it.
All right, then, yeah, we can just, I guess, motion. to
Shouldn't
the village
take too
board
long to
until
do
it's ready to go.
It shouldn't take too long to do it. When do you throw out the packet for the board meeting next Thursday?
Tomorrow night, since I'm here till 9 o'clock, so it'll be done probably by 7
Oh,
p.m.
shit, I can't have it done tomorrow.
Yeah, because I'll be gone the rest of the week.
David Scott.
No, I think
I
May's
can't.
May's fine.
Uh,
You don't want to join us until 9 p.m. and sit, yeah.
No,
Well, then we would look at it again.
Either way.
We
It wouldn't hurt.
It's not gonna be for this board meeting, is what you're saying.
No.
And so.
And if
we
you
might
want
as
Eric
well-
to review it, it won't
That's
be
fine.
ready till.
We might as well just review it one more time and then push it to the board. If that, in fact, we have to, it's not slowing anything down.
No.
It just, that would be neater. And then
No.
we can just check and see that, it's not concrete, it's asphalt.
Yeah.
Aprons and that they're yellow or green. or
Yeah.
Yellow and green, because that's.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And then you want plastic, because I would incorporate
Yeah.
what we talked about earlier, that things would be replaced in kind, storm leads. Culverts would be replaced and all that kind of material. We'd do plastic instead of copper, that kind of
Now,
stuff.
when you said replaced in kind.
Exactly the way it was.
The same.
Not, yeah. Not necessarily,
Does. do we need a
asphalt
motion for
or
that?
approaches.
Just to postpone until it's ready for the May meeting, I guess.
Well, I make a motion that we postpone the construction material standards and specification document to our next committee meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. 3-0.
I'm gonna say, yeah, if there's an opportunity to table something, I'm all in.
So motion carries 3-0.
All right.
Do we technically have referrals?
I think we're waiting on Eric, right?
Other than get moving with GIS,
Right, and that's,
that could be started. You can tell them.
We gotta wait for the board? No?
you've got, it's in the budget, so
Okay.
we
I'll
made the
tell 'em.
decision at this level and you're good to go.
All right, I'll tell him.
So when you say that's a referral, is that, well, that's.
I got
what
the
it is.
staff referral. And,
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion
Good
second.
for a second?
All those in favor?
Every second. There's a second behind it.
Second. Unanimously carried 3-0. Good work. There are a
Yeah,
lot of issues and we need to keep
we got.
focused on those. So thank
Believe
you
me,
so
we
much.
got so many more to go.
Yeah.
You thought that was it for construction wise, it is
No,
not at
no,
all.
it's a different-
We honestly and truly